Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, J.K. Rowling. Chapter 5, Diagon Alley. Doris Crockford shook Harry's hand one last time, and Hagrid led them through the bar and out into a small walled courtyard where there was nothing but a dust-stained pane and a few weeds. Hagrid grinned at Harry. Told ya, didn't I? Told ya you're famous. Even Professor Squirrel was trembling to meet ya. Mind you, he's usually trembling. Is he always that nervous? Oh yeah, poor bloke. Brilliant mind. He was fine while he was starting out the books, but then he took a year off to get some first-hand experience. They say he met vampires in the Black Forest, and there was a nasty bit of trouble with a hag. Never been the same since. Scared of the students, scared of his own subject now. Where's the umbrella? Vampires, hags. Harry's head was swimming. Hagrid, meanwhile, was counting bricks in the wall above the dust sin. 3 up, 2 across, he muttered. Right, stand back, Harry. He tapped the wall 3 times with the point of his umbrella. The brick he could touch quivered it, wriggled in the middle. A small hole appeared. It grew wider and wider. A second later, they were facing an archway large enough even for Hagrid. An archway onto a cobbled street which twisted and turned out of sight. Welcome, said Hagrid, to Diagon Alley. He grinned at Harry's amazement. They stepped through the archway. This is what they saw. Harry looked quickly over his shoulder and saw archway shrink instantly back into solid wall. The sun shone brightly on a stack out of cauldrons outside the nearest shop. Cauldrons, all sizes. Copper, brass, pewter, silver, self-straining, collapsible, said a sign hanging over them. Yeah, you'll be needing one, said Hagrid, but we gotta get your money first. Harry wished he had about 8 more eyes. He turned his head in every direction as they walked up the street, trying to look at everything at once. The shops, the things outside them, the people doing the shopping. A plump woman outside in sportuary was shaking her head as they passed, saying, Dragon liver, 16 sickles and wands. They are mad. So this is another picture what they saw. A low, soft hooting came from a dog shop with a sign selling Ilops Owl Emporium, Tony's, Scratch, Barn, Brown and Snowy. Several boys of about Harry's age had their noses pressed against a window with broomsticks in it. Look, Harry heard one of them say, the new Nimbus 2000, fast as ever. There were shops selling ropes, shops selling telescopes and strange silver instruments Harry had never seen before. Windows stacked with barrels of bat spleens and eel's eyes, tottering piles of spell books, quills and rolls of parchment, potion bottles, globes of the moon. Gringotts, said Hagrid. They had reached its snowy white building, which towered over the other little shops. Standing beside its Bernice's bronze door, wearing a uniform of scarlet and gold, was... Yeah, that's a goblin, said Hagrid quietly, as they walked up the white stone steps toward him. The goblin was about a third shorter than Harry. He had a swarthy, clever face, a pointed beard, and, Harry noticed, a very long fingers and feet. He bowed as they walked inside. Now they were facing a second pair of doors, silver this time, with words engraved upon them. Even stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take, but do not turn, must pay most dully in their turn. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure in there. Like I said, he'd be mad to try and rob it, said Hagrid. A pair of goblins bowed them through Mumble Hall. About 100 more goblins were sitting on high stools behind a long counter, scribbling in large letters, winking coins on brass scales, examining precious stones through eyeglasses. There were too many doors to count leading off the hall, and yet more goblins were showing people in and out of these. Hagrid and Harry made for the counter. Morning, said Hagrid to a free goblin. We've come to take some Miss Harry Potter's safe. Do you have his keys here? Got it there somewhere, said Hagrid, and he started emptying his pockets onto the counter, scattering a handful of motley dog biscuits over the goblin's book of numbers. The goblin winked his nose. Harry watched the goblin on the right winning a pile of rubbish as big as growing goals. Got it, said Hagrid at last, holding up a tiny golden key. The goblin looked at it closely. That seems to be in order. And I've also got a letter here from Professor Dumbledore, said Hagrid importantly, throwing out his chest. It's about the you-know-who-what in World 713. The goblin read the letter carefully. Very well, he said, handing it back to Hagrid. I will have someone take you down to Boss Welly's. Griphook! Griphook was yet another goblin. Once Hagrid was cramped all the dog biscuits back inside his pockets, he and Harry followed Griphook towards one of the doors leading off the hall. That's the you-know-what in World 713, Harry asked. Can't tell you that, said Hagrid mysteriously. Very secret. Hogwarts business. Dumbledore's trusted me. More in my job's worth to tell you that. Griphook held the door open for them. Harry, who had expected more mumbo, was surprised. They went in a narrow stone passageway lit with flaming torches. It sloped steilly downstairs, and there were little railway tracks on the floor. Griphook whistled, and a small cart came hurtling up the tracks towards them. They climbed in, Hagrid with some difficulty, and were off. At first they just huddled through a maze of twisting passages. Harry tried to remember. Left, right, left, middle, fork, right, left, but it was impossible. The railing cart seemed to know its own way because Griphook wasn't steering. Harry's eyes stung as the cold air rushed past them, but he kept them wide open. Once, he thought he saw a burst of fire at the end of the passage and twisted around to see if it was a dragon, but too late. They plunged even deeper, passing an underground lake where huge stalactites and stalagmites grew from the ceiling and floor. I never know, Harry called to Harry over the noise of the cart. What's the difference between a stalagmite and stalactite? Stalagmites got an M in it, said Hagrid. And don't ask me questions just now. I think I'm gonna be sick. This is the goblin. He did look very green, and when the cart stopped at last beside a small door in the passage wall, Hagrid got out and had to lean against the wall to stop his knees trembling. Griphook unlocked the door. A lot of green smoke came billowing out, and as it cleared, Harry gasped. Inside there were mounds of gold coins, columns of silver, heaps of little bronze nuts. All yours, smiled Hagrid. All Harry's. It was incredible. The Dursleys couldn't have known about this if they had it from his faster than blinking. How often had they complained how much Harry's cost them to keep? All that the time had been a small fortune belonging to him, buried deep under London.